that home may not be here tomorrow. So I'd say when you find the one and you get that gut feeling and everything feels right on it, make the move. Well, we've been doing this for a while. We've got a wealth of knowledge and resources to draw from, and we may be able to think of some creative solutions. And the more time that we have to be able to problem solve, the greater our chances are of actually being able to save the deal. All right, guys, welcome back to the DFW New Home Podcast. This is a podcast where a realtor and a builder rep share their insights on the exciting journey of buying and building new construction homes. We know that buying a new home can be daunting, but we are here to make the process more approachable, informative, and enjoyable. Our goal is to empower you with knowledge and resources to help you make informed decisions about your new construction home. Whether you're a first-time home buyer or an experienced homeowner, the DFW New Home Podcast is the podcast for you. Join us every week for insights, inspiration, and a little bit of fun on your journey to building your dream home.
All right. Megan, how are you doing?
I'm hanging in there. I think a lot of us are. I think we're all in this state of burnout since COVID that we're
gosh. Like the first part of this year for me has felt both fast and slow at the exact same time.
Oh yeah. I'm like, it's already February. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, when we're recording this,
already February.
It'll probably be March once this episode comes out, and I'll need a vacation at that point. Today, hey, we've got some fun. We're gonna talk builder contracts. We're gonna talk escalation. We're gonna talk about HOAs because everybody's got a horror story about their HOA, right? Mm-hmm. But let's start with this question because I get asked this question a lot. And so what happens if let's say we go under contract and it's either a build job or it's an inventory and I get cold feet and we can't move forward and I got to back out. Am I screwed? Can I get out of that contract? What do we do? Right. Let's start there.
Yeah, I think this is going to be a great episode because it's going to tackle a lot of the catastrophes, the what ifs, the oh my gosh, worst case scenario type things. So let's get into it. The first one, as we said, is what happens if we get cold feet? I'm sorry, you're out of luck. You know, I hate to say it like that. It's harsh, but it is. That's what earnest deposits, the earnest money, that's what that is there for. It is consideration. It is your skin in the game. It shows that you're serious, especially on a build or a completed inventory. If we're taking that home off of the market and we're not able to market to anybody else, we're not able to try and sell it to another buyer, well, then we need some assurances that you're not just going to walk away because you change your mind. So there's always extenuating circumstances and conversations to be had, but the contract specifically says that your earnest deposit is non-refundable.
I always try and tell people, I'm like, I want you to think engagement ring, right? This is, you're not married yet. You're not going, you were proceeding to the point where you are becoming a union. And it would be weird if you gave somebody an engagement ring and they were talking to other people. Like that would be kind of like a red flag. And you're like, please don't do that. But also if you broke up during the engagement, you might or might not get that ring back. Like she may keep it. And I hope that doesn't happen. But when we go into a contract, earnest money is the consideration. Yeah, it's the engagement ring. It says, hey, I'm committed to you. You guys are committed to me. We're going to make this thing work. You do get that money is credited to you at closing. So it's not like you're if you it's like you put the wedding band on it, right? Like the engagement ring's still there. There's the wedding band behind it. But yeah, if you close on the home, you're going to get credit for that. You're going to get credit for your design deposits. It's all going to show up on the sheet. But if you decide you're like, we're not really sure, I just would tell you to assume that you're walking away from that money. So when we sign this contract, whether it's a build job or it's an inventory job, you better be sure that that's what you want. And I'll be honest, I don't have this a lot with inventory because usually we close quickly. It's 30 to 45 days. On a build job, when it's 6 months, that's where a lot of people start questioning. It's like, oh, did we make the right decision? Oh, can we actually afford this? Oh, there's so many things that can happen in
life
6 months.
Happens.
Right? Life happens. And like I said, I've seen I don't want to give a blanket statement that like you're going to get it back, because you're probably not. But I have seen builders in some cases, they've given it back. They had a death in the family and it was like, we just can't, we can't financially, we cannot move forward. A loss of job, and it's like, okay, well, we'll refund part of it. I've had builders before be like, hey, we're not going to refund it, but we'll hold it and it's good for a year if you want to buy in any other community. And so it always just depends on circumstances. And I always want to tell people, like, don't leave your team in the dark. Don't leave your realtor in the dark. Don't leave your sales rep in the dark. Don't leave your lender in the dark. Like, the more information you can give us, the more we can go to bat to help you.
And not only that, but if you start seeing early on that there might be an issue and you communicate that with us, well, we've been doing this for a while. We've got a wealth of knowledge and resources to draw from, and we may be able to think of some creative solutions. And the more time that we have to be able to problem solve, the greater our chances are of actually being able to save the deal. So if it's not a matter of cold feet and it's a matter of, hey, life circumstances are happening and we're running into issues because of that, well, you've got a great team in most cases, hopefully, that will be able to help you find a way out of that hole if you communicate with us.
Yeah, communicate and talk, and the lenders are the big piece in that too. Because I've seen times where it's like, hey, we thought we needed this, but we had a family emergency and now we're $2,000 short. And it's like, we talk about that, and it's like, sometimes I've had builders say, oh, we can up your incentive money. Like, I'm not telling you that it happens every time, but don't make us be, please don't make me be Hansel and Gretel. Like, I don't want to chase breadcrumbs.
Yes.
Give me, I'm here to help you. We're here to help you get into the house, but I can't help you if I don't know. Right. Yeah. And so that's, like I said, that's where we see a lot of the, oh, did we make the right decision kind of feeling is a lot of times on build jobs. So that leads me kind of to this next question of like, hey, once I'm under contract, we've signed everything, we've paid our deposits. Can the builder change my price?
Sometimes. So let's talk about that. We're not seeing this particular thing I'm about to mention come up super often anymore. This is something that we started doing in 2021, 2022. We started seeing builders start to implement what is called an escalation clause. So the escalation clause started happening when material costs were going like this. And it was really difficult to be able to predict ahead of time how much it was going to cost in materials to be able to physically build that home. If lumber cost goes up 60% overnight, and now, well, dang, like our lumber bill just got way more expensive, and maybe we're not even making money on this house anymore. The escalation clause was there as a protection for the builders from ending up underwater on our costs, on our margins. So every builder handled it a little bit differently. The way that Pacesetter specifically did it was that 30 days after sheetrock was installed, we would go back and look at the estimated budget versus the actual budget for the major material costs. We were covering the first 5% of price increase, and beyond that, we were asking the buyer to assume that cost and roll it into the price of the home. So I never personally had to deal with actually calling in any of those escalation clauses. Thank goodness. A lot of my coworkers did have to deal with that, and they were hard conversations to have, but often it was still less expensive than if they were to start over and build from scratch. So luckily we're not seeing that as much anymore.
Yeah, it was definitely a thing through 2021, first part of 22. It's not as much anymore. Once we contract, we pretty much have the only thing that really changes is your design. If you're building, is your design options, but contracts, rarely are they changing. Also on inventory deals, it's not going to change. If we contract on the inventory, the price is what the price is when we finish the negotiation. It's not going to change.
You're locked in.
So then the question becomes too, so a lot of times builders change their incentives, right? And they change month to month or quarter to quarter, or, week. Sometimes it's week to week. And I know, for you guys as salespeople, y'all don't get to decide. Megan doesn't go into her office and think, hey, I want to give $20,000 this month. What happens is Megan gets an email on Monday morning and says, hey, here's your new incentives. change it, and this is what we're doing, and run with it, right? Like that's how that
Mhm.
works.
Yep.
So then the question is, what happens if I go under contract and the incentives get better? Can we change it?
For the most part, no. It's kind of like if you have a coupon somewhere and
Yep.
or let's say you buy something and then later you see the coupon. You can't bring the item back in with the coupon and say, "Hey, can I get credit for this item that I bought yesterday?" Or if it goes on
Yep.
sale the next day. That's just not typically how it works. Once the contract is signed and you've locked in your special provisions, you've locked in your incentives, that's locked
Yep.
in. So yeah, I wouldn't spend a whole lot of time hoping to renegotiate on deals that have already been executed.
Yeah. It doesn't happen. So you just have to have the mentality and understand that, like, hey, we got the best deal that was available today. And if somebody
Mhm.
else comes along tomorrow and gets a different, like, it's gonna be okay. Like, it's not you can't you're if you do that, you're gonna live in this continual comparison of like, oh well, I didn't they got
Yeah,
that and I didn't get that. And it's like you're gonna worry yourself sick. You can't do it. So let's get the best deal possible on the front end. And then don't worry.
yeah, I
Because
think it's
sometimes they
it's more important. Sorry to interrupt, but I was just gonna say it's more
no, you're good.
important to make your decision than it is if you're constantly trying to search for
Mhm.
the next deal, the best deal that's out there. Well, then you're going to be waiting a while. And maybe in the meantime, prices are going up and your dream house is
Yeah,
being bought by somebody else. So I think it's
yeah.
more important to make that decision and think of it in the long game. Like I'm going to be living
Mhm.
in this house for years to come. I think that's more
Yes.
important than can I save a little bit more and get a little bit better incentive.
Yeah, because yeah, like you said, it's the investment. You're gonna make, like, most likely here in DFW, you're gonna make money on that house if you sit on it for 3 to 5 years. You're probably gonna make money, and the money that you would have, like, waited on to get the deal, you probably, like, it
You
comes out
probably
in the
lose
wash
it.
anyway.
Yep.
Especially because I know right now a lot of builders, like, specifically on the build side, a lot of builders are back to saying, hey, every 5 houses we sell in this neighborhood, we're taking a price increase. And
Yeah.
not the sales rep, that's the company saying this is how we're going to do this. And part of that's to slow demand, part of it's to change the market. um you know but so if you're waiting, you're like, oh well, we might have got a little bit more in incentive money, but your base price went up, right? And then
Mhm.
on the inventory side, you never know. I always appreciate when builder sales reps are honest and transparent, and they're like, hey, we've had people looking at this house, not in like a salesy way to try and get
Yeah.
me to write a contract, but just like in an honest way. Because I always tell my clients, hey, we may be seeing this house for the first time, but somebody else is back for the third time, and
Mhm.
they've already run through all of their checks and they're ready to go. So
Yeah.
if we like it and you like the deal, like, you need to take it. Sleep on it if you have to, do what you have to do. Um, but you never, like, you inevitably, you just never know. And as we see the spring coming, like, I don't know about you, but I'm having more phone calls, more emails. You are probably seeing more foot traffic. Like,
Yeah.
the
Like
competition is
double
going
the
to start.
traffic.
Yeah,
Yeah.
competition is going to start spinning back up.
Yeah. Yeah, we've seen double the like last week we had double the traffic than the previous like month, 2 months of
Yeah.
traffic. So it's definitely already starting to pick up. And yeah, it's always weird like coming from my end like of course I want to sell you my home. So if I tell you like, "Oh, you don't want to miss out on this one," like I feel like it comes off a little bit more salesy, but genuinely, like if I have multiple people looking at an inventory home, I want you to know that home may not be here tomorrow. So I'd say when you find the one and you get that gut feeling and everything feels right on it, make the move.
Yeah. Well, and like that too, multiple people, because, like, again, going back to the consideration side, a contract's not a contract until you have the pre-approval from the lender and the lender says you're good to go and we can write it. So it's like, hey, we can have somebody working through the pre-approval process.
Yeah.
And if they drag their feet and don't get all their stuff in and somebody else gets it done, it's like, well, that house is going to them, right?
Mhm. Yeah.
But the other side of this that I would say is, like, when you work with a realtor that spends enough time in the new construction space, and has relationships with those sales counselors, I'm not guaranteeing that my relationship gets us the house, but most likely that relationship at least gets me a phone call that
Yeah.
says, hey, somebody else is getting ready. Like, if you want the house, you know, you're first in line. we just need to know, right? And so that's where, when you work with people that spend their time in that industry, that have those reputations with new construction homes, like I said, it doesn't guarantee you the house, but at least it guarantees that I'm going to get a phone call if somebody else is trying to take what you want.
Yeah, like I'm going to give Zach the heads up. If I know he has a buyer that's interested in a home and I have someone else looking at it, like I want Zach to know, because I know that I want to work with him. He's great to work with. And, I will say it's a little bit different in the build market and the new construction space than it is in the pre-built space. We don't have multiple offers.
Yeah.
In this space. In this space, it's the first person who has the pre-approval and the check. That's who gets it. So it's first come, first serve, which was great during COVID because it let you get a leg up on the competition. You weren't having to offer 100,000 over asking. It was, hey, if you can get your foot in the door somewhere and you can be the first one with the pre-approval and the check, you can get it. And that's still the case today, now that we're starting to see multiple offers coming back.
Yeah, no, it's the competition is not there yet. It's going to be there this year. It is going to be there. So if you're hearing this episode in the first parts of 2024, you still probably have a little bit of an advantage. If you're hearing it later in 2024, well, we'll
told you
see
so.
how it goes. Yeah, I tried to tell you. Okay, so we know, hey, we find the house, we take the deal, but also, and I appreciate this, is like, if the house is a no, like, we need to tell the sales rep it's a no. Like, don't string them along. So if I have other realtors listening to this, if you're a realtor and you're listening to this and you go talk to a sales rep and it's a no, just send a text and be like, hey, we found another house. Hey, it didn't work. Because here's what's happening. Here's what they won't tell you is they have to report their what they call ups to management. Like, how many times people walked in the door and it's like, oh, we think we had this contract. We think we're getting a contract. We think they're going to do it. And then their managers are like, well, what happened? What happened? And then they're trying to reach out to you and they're like, and you're ghosting them.
Yeah.
And it's frustrating. Like, just tell them no. Like I said, if you're doing this without a realtor, which I don't recommend, like if it's a no, it's a no. Like, you're not hurting anybody's feelings. You're not calling their baby ugly. Just say no and say, hey, we found something that fit better, and let them move on.
I can't tell you how many times I show somebody, like, let's say it's a completed inventory home, and I walk them through it and they're like, yeah, it's nice. Yeah, this could work. It's good. And like, that's that's the level of excitement that you're getting. And I'm like, my job is to ask for the close. And sometimes I do it, even though I'm getting the sense that I'm like, I doubt it. Because sometimes I'm surprised. Sometimes they don't seem like they're excited. And I ask and they're like, yeah, let's write it up. And I'm like, okay. But like, I'll ask for it. And they're like, we can put it on the list. And I'm like, just tell me. It's fine. It's fine. I'm not going to be offended. And honestly, I will be grateful, because then I'm not wasting my time trying to follow up and wonder what's happening. And you seem like you like it. And why aren't I hearing back from you? Like, just tell me. Just like with dating, nobody likes being ghosted. I'd rather be told, what? It's just not working out for me.
I think we're better as friends. Like, let's all be adults in this situation, right? Like,
totally.
Yeah, like I said. So if you're a buyer or if you're a realtor, because again, I hear this a lot, like from they're like, oh, we were talking to this person and then they just stopped responding, or they showed it a bunch and we don't know. Like, just tell people, hey, it didn't fit. They didn't like the budget. They didn't like the location. Like, or you didn't have to have a reason. Like, it's just like they're going to go in a different direction, and leave it at that. Like, that is a complete answer.
Totally fine.
So, okay, we've talked escalations, we've talked price reductions, contracts. Let's keep going on the builder contract, and then we'll hit the HOA at the end. So builder contracts are not normal. Like, so in Texas, we have like TREC, which governs Texas realtors, and we have contracts that we use on resale, and they're very specific in how we write them. Builder contracts are not that. Builder contracts are very builder to builder, and they're written by their legal teams, right? So, Megan, I'll ask you if there's something in that contract that I'm like, I don't really like that. Can we change it?
It's like the Apple terms and conditions. If you want to use your iPhone, you got to hit accept. And no, there's not really any, like, there might be negotiating on incentives, but anything else in the contract is not negotiable.
Yeah.
So
the respectfully, a builder's going to tell you to pound sand. Like, we're not changing our. First of all, most likely you're not. Well,
It's not
and again,
yeah, I can't edit.
it's not the sales team. It's their legal team.
Yeah.
And I will be honest and tell you, most of the time those contracts are written for the benefit of the builder. They're
Mhm.
there to protect. Again, they're protecting their asset, right? You have $5,000 on the line in earnest money. They have several $100,000 on the line in development and employment and materials and labor and all of those things. So the contract is going to be written in such a way that protects them. Like, I'm just going to be candid.
Yep. You're right.
It's not a bad thing, but yeah, you're like, oh, I want to strike through this. Nope. Unless you're an attorney, that's a different conversation. I'm not striking through it. I'm not
No,
asking this.
I do not have the legal authority to make changes to legal documents and draft my own sentences. No, I do not. But
and again, if you don't like Megan said, I think the Apple terms and conditions is a very valid point for that. Like, if you want it, this is how we're going to do it. If you don't want it, this is fine. But so speaking of that, so maybe we're not going to change it. What are things we should look for? Like, it's a contract, right? We're entering into an agreement. What should we make sure is in there? What should we make sure we read? What should we make sure we understand about that contract?
Yeah, so that's a long answer, because honestly, it takes me about 30-40 minutes to go over a contract with somebody. Because
Give me the short
like
answer.
Yeah.
Give us the 30,000 foot view
up front and make sure that everyone knows what they're getting into and they know what to expect. I would say, like we talked about in the last episode, what happens if I can't close on the closing date because my home isn't sold yet, or whatever the reason is. Look to what their policy is for like extending that closing date. Look to their termination policy. It's probably that if you cancel at any time for any reason, you don't get your deposits back. And it's probably also going to say that the builder can cancel for any time at any reason.
Yep.
The only time that I see like my company talk about doing that is in the case of a belligerent or abusive buyer. If someone comes in and they're cussing us out and they're threatening us and it's a toxic relationship, we're not going to continue building a home for that person. So that out is in there. It's a clause in there in the contract for a reason. But yeah, most of it, just make sure that you have a builder rep, either a builder rep or a realtor who understands the contract, who will explain it to you, who will answer any questions that you have, who will actually take the time to go through it with you and make sure that you understand. That's what I would say is the most important thing.
Yeah, I would agree. It's termination. It's what the clauses on, hey, if you can't close, there's going to be language in there that says, so it's funny, again, talking about how it's written, like, if you can't close, there's fees, but if there's delays on the builder side, which there might be, they're protected. So just understand that that's in the contract. Understand that the your warranty stuff on what is warrantable, what is not warrantable, is in the contract. Understand, if this is a big one, if you're building, I guarantee you 100%, there is language in contract about if you show up during the build process and start adding things to your home, you're going to be in trouble. Like, I know your cousin,
like adding extra insulation, or
your cousin Jimmy might be an electrician, and if he shows up while they're like and starts doing work, A, I guarantee you they're going to catch it, and B, you're going to be in hot water. Like, it's in that contract, right?
It's not your home yet. You don't own it yet. Yeah.
Like
so there's liability issues, there's warranty issues. Like, no, it's not your home until after closing. So yeah, definitely. You can't, people ask that all the time, like, oh, can I just come in and put in like attic decking before the sheetrock goes up? Or, hey, can you just hold off on installing this and I'm going to install my own thing later? And like, for the most part, no. Or can I buy it for you and bring it to you and have your guys install it? No. For warranty.
90% of the time, the answer is no. Well, and because partially because they have to, like, worst case scenario, if you don't close on that home, and let's say, it was, hey, I brought you all of this. I did my pre-wire first surround sound, and then we don't close on the home. Well, who owns that wiring? Do I own it? Does the builder own it? Whatever. I'll tell you this story really quick. So this was 21, I had a buyer. We actually ended up getting his contract was canceled. So he did the electrical thing. Like he showed up and against everything that we had told them not to do, he did. He showed up one weekend and added some electrical things that were not in the electrical plans that the electric company didn't do. And the electric company showed back up the next week, noticed what he did, and basically said, "Hey, that voids our entire warrant. Like we will not warranty anything in this house with it like that." And so, yeah, the builder called and they were like, "Hey, we're canceling this contract." And he like, I'll be honest, he was pissed. And I was like, "I told you." Like, and the sales rep told you, and the construction superintendent told you, don't do it.
You
And
made your bed.
you made your bed. Like, so yeah, I think it's a good point. It is not yours until they hand you the keys and money has exchanged hands at the closing table.
Yeah. Same thing too. I have people ask me all the time, like, hey, I ordered a fridge and can I have it delivered before closing? Can you unlock the door for them to go set it up? Nope. Hey, can I put some stuff in the garage before closing? Nope. It's no. What if somebody stole that out of the house?
Or what if the house caught fire? Like worst case scenario. Yeah, like I said, it is not yours until the keys are in your hand and it is insured in your name and money has exchanged hands. Then you can do whatever you want.
Yep.
But there, like I said, there's language like that in the contracts that protect everybody involved. So yeah, you're not going to change it, but make sure you read it, make sure you understand it, make sure your incentives are correct. Those should be listed somewhere in your contract, right?
Special
your purchase price
usually.
Yeah, special provisions of any sort of incentive money. If you're a lot of times, I'll tell you the incentive money is tied to using a builder's lender. Sometimes you can get partial incentive money if you choose to go to an outside lender. That's a case-by-case scenario. But if you want that needs to be in the contract that you're getting X number of dollars regardless of lender. Because if not, and people try to go outside and they're like, wait a minute, I was supposed to have 20 grand and I only have 8. And it's like, well, you didn't read your contract that says this is set aside on the condition that you use our lender.
And as a quick aside, the reason that builders offer incentives for working with specific lenders, it's not because we're over here getting kickbacks. That's not legal, first of all. But it's really because it makes the process that much smoother and simpler for everybody involved, that it's worth it to us to offer you more money to make that process go smoother. These lenders, they're experienced with new construction. They're experienced with that builder. They're experienced with, okay, what are the HOA transfer fees? Like they'll be able to really make sure that we're not having these last minute headaches and closing delays. And Jared Wilson with Benchmark Mortgage, who's one of our recommended lenders. I know Zach loves working with him. One of my favorites. Yes. We just had a meeting on Monday and he was asked, how many deals in the last 5 years, 6 years has he had that did not go through at the last minute because of an issue with the lender? Like the lender was not on top of their stuff, not paying attention, and then the buyer couldn't qualify at the end. He said one in the last 5 or 6 years where there was something that slipped through the cracks that wasn't able to close. One time in the last 5 or 6 years. And every time I have an outside lender, there's always something. There's always something that's a headache at the end.
And to the simplicity of what here's the real truth. So like technically here in Texas, you're not supposed to have keys until it funds, which means money has moved from you and the lender to the title company and it's been dispersed and everybody's gotten paid more or less. When you work with a preferred lender, oftentimes builders will go ahead and release those keys because they know, because what Megan said, they know they're going to get paid. It's not there's nothing holding that up. So oftentimes with a preferred lender, we can get our keys directly at title or as soon as we finish at title because we know they're going to take care of it. Whereas if we use that outside lender, we might be waiting a day or maybe longer, just depending on.
Zach, I had someone once go outside lender, outside title. They went outside for both. I told her, I tried to warn her. I was like, girl, don't do it. It's going to be a headache. It took 4 days before she was able to get keys because her title company and the lender, they both kept making mistakes. Our contracts and closings coordinator would email over saying, no, these 4 things need to be corrected. They'd email back with one of the things corrected. And this went
Gosh,
back and forth for 4 days before she was able to get
no.
keys. So who you work with matters.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, like I said, there's a reason they have those preferred relationships.
Mhm.
And it makes a difference. All right, let's wrap up our episode because we're doing catastrophes. Let's talk HOAs because truthfully, if you're buying in a new construction development, you are most likely going to have some sort of HOA. There is very few that I see, at least here in DFW, that don't have a HOA. And everybody has their different opinions. And HOA means different things in different communities. Like for y'all's community, y'all have multiple amenity centers, you have walking trails, you have dog parks, you have things like that. You have smaller
Mhm.
communities that you might just have one singular pool. But either way, you're going to have those fees associated with HOAs. How strict is the HOA? Like, can they tell me what I can and can't do with my house?
They can. And how strict they are and what's actually getting enforced is going to vary from community to community. You go on
Uh
any
huh.
community Facebook page, you're going to see a bunch of people, number one, complaining about the HOA. They're not doing their
Yep.
job enough. They're either not strict enough or they're too strict. My neighbor
Yep.
has weeds, but then I got fined for having one little weed. There's always going to
Yep.
be all that drama going on any community you go to, really. But your question was, how strict are they? And what can you do? Like, basically, if you can
Yeah.
see it from the outside, if you're standing in front of your house and you can see a major change that you're going to make, you're going to paint your front door, you're going to redo your landscaping, you're going to, do major changes like that, then yeah, the HOA is going to want to have a say in that. Same thing in the backyard.
Yep.
If you can see it from the back, if you're doing a shed or a pergola or something like that,
Or a
they're going to
pool.
want, or a pool, then typically there's a form that has to be submitted for their review and approval.
Yeah. It's always like, hey, and there's going to be guidelines. Like you can't paint the outside of your house purple. It's just
Mm-mm.
they're going to tell you no. So the biggest things I see are, like you said, it's weeds, it's trash cans. Like they don't want to see trash cans out on non-trash days. A
Mhm.
lot of times it's trees. So most new communities, most builders give you a front yard tree and a backyard tree, or you get two front yard trees.
Mhm.
The expectation is that you keep those things alive
Yeah.
and that you keep them groomed and manicured. And if they die, like we got a warning or a fine. We got a warning, and it actually turned into a fine because we had a dead tree. And I was like,
Mhm.
well, it was we just didn't replace it. And they're like, no, it needs to like this is the expectation. This is what it. So yeah, pay. You're moving into there. If you're getting that contract, you will most likely copy of the like community guidelines and restrictions, the
Mhm.
bylaws. Like read through them, make sure you understand who's in charge. Like sometimes it's an outside management company, sometimes it's like your neighbors. So you just need to know how that like the demographics of that work. It is interesting. I've seen more and more HOA. So we're talking about pools earlier. Some HOAs have cracked down on above ground pool. They will not like. If you have a pool, it has to be a in ground. Like they don't want above ground pools in backyards.
Yeah, and people like to dunk on HOAs for like restricting freedom and all that. And like I get those points too, but I've lived in a community without an HOA, and
Mm-hmm.
some of the houses, I mean, there's just no standard for upkeep, and that can decrease your property value. If you have a neighbor
Yeah,
who has like bright turquoise trim and a bunch of lawn ornaments that look tacky year round, it sounds a little snobbish, but like it's a good thing to be able to
it
maintain
is.
property values for the entire community and to
Well, and
not have eyes
oftentimes
you're having to look at every day when you're walking through your neighborhood.
right. It's that, and oftentimes HOAs are planning, they're planning movie nights in the park, or they're
Yeah.
doing pool things, or they're doing, ours does like food trucks occasionally, which is like it's all fun. So I will tell
Decorating the
you,
front entrance for Christmas, stuff like
yeah,
that.
Christmas and holidays, your dues pay for the common areas, they pay for the pools. In some neighborhoods, it pays for front lawn maintenance. In other neighborhoods, I think in y'all's neighborhood, it actually pays for the internet, right?
Yeah, yeah, internet's included, 1 gig fiber optic and Elevon with the HOA payment.
So you're gonna like if, and then the question is, well, do we have to pay them? Yes, you have to pay them. If you move into the neighborhood, you owe them money. Here's the real truth: if you get to the point where you are not paying your HOA and they are constantly fining you for violations, they can put a lien on. Like it's the extreme case, but they can
Yeah.
put a lien on your house, and they can like the HOA can close on you. Now that's like worst case scenario, way extreme, but they do have that right. And it is in the community guidelines that you read and sign that you agree to.
Yeah, that's part of the contract. So something to be aware of.
So if you don't want to, like I said, most of the time they're not bad. Most of the time it is your neighbors, and it keeps the values up. They can be a little pricey. You know, on average, we see anything from $600 to $1,500 a year here in DFW. It just depends on the neighborhood and what all amenities you have and what's included. But if you want new construction, you're probably going to have an HOA.
And if it seems a little high, like for instance, in Elevon, it's $1,860 per year. It's paid monthly, but $1,860, you're like, wow, that's so much. But then you're not going to have a separate internet bill. Yeah. So 1 gig internet, you might be paying $80-100 a month for 1 gig internet. Well, now you don't have that bill. It's part of the HOA. So that's something, if you see a really high HOA in a neighborhood, don't let that immediately scare you off. Ask why it's so high. Ask what you're getting for that. And it might be something that is worth the extra cost.
Yeah, no, we were in a community the other day and it was $160 a month, but it included front yard maintenance. I was like, that's cool. Like, yeah. And it wasn't small yards. It was, bigger yards and they would mow for you. So yeah, that's a good thing. I think that's a fair point. Is just ask what it's going to be and, ask to see the documents, ask to see how the money's spent and then get involved. And the fun thing is, Megan kind of mentioned it, find the neighborhood page because those are freaking hilarious. I don't know about your neighborhood, but our neighborhood has like the official page, and then we have the like uncensored page of people that got kicked off the official page.
Yes,
it's good. It's good reading. I mean, it's always a good laugh, or it's always like, you really chose to post that. Yeah. Read them. Enjoy. Ask. Like, just kind of get a vibe. It's a good place to be.
Yeah, I had someone come in the other day and she was like, I want to move because my community Facebook page is so negative. I'm like, honey, it's gonna be like that. Where you go. I'm sorry. Like, stay off the page.
Put it on mute. Yeah. Oh my gosh. I have a love-hate relationship with our Facebook page where it's like, oh, somebody's dog's barking. Yeah, it's a dog. That's what they do. Oh my gosh. So, all right, I think that wraps us up for today, right?
Yeah, that wraps us up.
All right, guys. Well, if we appreciate your time. Thanks for hanging out with us. If you've missed any episodes, go back and check them out. Our goal is to be a resource and to give you information and help any way we can when it comes to buying a brand new home here in DFW. So, thanks for hanging out with us. We'll see you in our next episode. Thanks for listening with us. Bye, guys.
And real quick, tune in for the next episode. I think we're going to have an announcement.
Ooh, I can't wait. You get to make it good.
All right. Bye, guys.
All right. Bye, guys.